Okay, now.
You would think this is a very basic principle even a child knows. Unfortunately, this is the reality we have to deal with time and time again. In the rise of Islamophobia, in the rise of people who are making fun of Allah and His Messenger, we right now are dealing with an elected congressman who physically, literally brought the name of the Prophet ﷺ on Twitter to make fun of it. When a Muslim politician is elected, he literally calls him Little Muhammad, astaghfirullah, making fun of the Prophet ﷺ and making fun of this Muslim politician on Twitter. And that went viral. 5 million people have retweeted, wanting to cancel his citizenship because he's a Muslim and he's a politician. And here we are, Muslims, debating, how can I support a politician when he has negative views as well? Dear Muslims, politicians are not ulama. Politicians have to deal with the lesser of two evils. That's the reality of politics. You do not have the luxury of choosing between Jibreel and between Iblis. It doesn't work that way. You do not have the luxury of choosing between pure piety and between pure evil. Every single politician has filth on their hands. You just have to find the one that has the least amount and will give you the rights that you want. Wallahi, you would...
Okay, so let's analyze this. And I just can't help but laugh at how idiotic this is. He sets up like this straw man. Like, he presents it as if the Muslims who have a problem with these political candidates, whether it's Zohran Mamdani or Ilhan Omar or Sadiq Khan, he sets it up like you have this standard that if there's a Muslim politician, that Muslim politician has to be an alim and has to have be the perfect Muslim, sinless, masoom. Like, that's what you think, that we can only support a politician who's masoom. Otherwise we can't support that politician. And that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Your job as a Muslim citizen in this country is just to weigh the pros and the cons and to see which politician is the least filthy. The least filthy. They're going to all be bad. They're all going to be filthy and have dirt on their hands, or maybe even blood on their hands. But all you need to do is find the one that is least filthy and vote for that person. And vote for that person. This has been YQ's argument for many years, like over a decade, maybe 2 decades now. And no matter how many times I've corrected him or I've pointed out the problems, like the retardation of this line of reasoning, or others have critiqued him, he hasn't changed. He hasn't gotten a more nuanced or a more qualified view of this issue. He just repeats the same slop as if it's so obvious. Even a child would understand, he says. But let's look at how this is, first of all, misrepresenting the criticism and what my criticism has been. My criticism has been, okay, fine, I concede. Let me just concede your premise. Let's put aside the question of voting and the idea of participation in democracy and whether a Muslim can participate in the kind of electoral process, because there are, I think, valid questions to raise about that and valid criticisms to have about that. I'm not denying it. But let's just put that aside, because that's ikhtilaf and there's a debate on that question itself, on voting and electoral politics and democracy itself. Let's put that aside and just concede that, okay, Muslims should just weigh the pros and the cons. Let's do that exercise. What is the benefit that we get with someone like Zohran Mamdani or someone like Ilhan Omar or Sadiq Khan? What is actually the benefits that we get from those individuals? That's the question. That's the question that I keep asking. If we saw Zohran Mamdani take a hard stance and say, we are going to have these campus protests at Columbia and we will not shut them down and we will actually pressure Columbia not to crack down on these students, I would say, well, that's actually a really big benefit. That's a really big benefit. That really does serve the interests of Muslims, because it not only is, it's like a real challenge to the power of Zionists that will have a huge impact on the political atmosphere, on the sentiments, the political positions of the youth in New York City, and that will have a trickle-down effect to other campuses through the whole country. And this is the number one thing that the Zionists are afraid of. And if Zohran is actually going to stand firm and allow these protests to happen, okay, well, that's actually a big, big pro. That's a huge pro that we can put on the pro side, a huge benefit. But that's not there. That's not there. He immediately backpedaled, backtracked on that, and is now endorsing the previous police commissioner, Jennifer Tisch, to continue her role as a Jewish Zionist head of the NYPD, cracking down on these protests. So, okay, well, what other benefit is Zohran going to, what other interests of Muslims is he going to serve in the role as mayor? Give me something to put in the pro side. And Yasir Qadhi doesn't have anything to give us. Just because he has a Muslim name? That's literally it. And I don't buy into this idea that, oh, just because you have a Muslim, that's going to make it so much better for Muslims in the country or in New York City. You have a Muslim, so now people are going to smile at Muslims more. They're going to be less scared of Muslims, or less likely to have bad views of Muslims because, oh, there's a Muslim mayor. Well, unfortunately, Zohran's Islam and Zohran's embodiment of Islam as a Muslim gives the exact wrong impression of what Muslims are and what Muslims are about. He's actually generating more Islamophobia, if we want to use that term. He's actually generating more anti-Muslim sentiment. Why? Because he's extremely outspoken on LGBT. He's extremely outspoken on feminism, on socialism, on a lot of things that a lot of people hate. And now that's being, like, he's explicitly communist. And a lot of people hate that. A lot of Americans hate that. That's actually generating more anti-Muslim hate. Or at most, we can say it's like a wash. We can say at most it's a wash and potentially has a lot of negative consequences. That Muslims, like being Muslim, is now being associated with communism and being pro-LGBT and being pro, like, unlimited immigration, for example. Like, that's not good necessarily for the long-term image of Muslims. And okay, fine, that's optics, but that even affects internally the politics of the Muslim community. Like, Muslims are being liberalized to adopt these positions and saying, yeah, well, Zohran, who Yasir Qadhi endorsed, has this position. So why is this wrong? Why as a Muslim, why shouldn't I support this? Maybe I should be pragmatic. Just like Yasir Qadhi told me to be pragmatic about these issues of LGBT and feminism and communism or whatever. We have to be pragmatic. Or like drug usage. We have Muslims, religious Muslims. This example always sticks in my head. You had one of these Yas Queen simps, literally worked for Yas Queen Simstitute, who was coming out publicly and saying that we need to support, as Muslims, the legalization of weed, the legalization of marijuana. Muslims need to support this. Muslims can't impose our values. If we are ever in office, we can't impose our values in a democracy to try to criminalize weed or at least make it illegal. We shouldn't do that. We should have this kind of laissez-faire policy, and that's consistent with being a Muslim who thinks that smoking weed is haram. I don't have any question on the fact that smoking weed is haram, or these other kinds of drugs. I don't have any question that it's haram, but does that mean we can criminalize smoking weed or doing these drugs? No. We have to be pragmatic. So this kind of pragmatic approach that Yasir Qadhi has towards politics, where he says that, yeah, we know that smoking weed is haram, we know that homosexuality is haram, but that's a separate question from politics. The morality is separate from the politics. When it comes to the politics, we should be willing to support gay rights, LGBT rights, the right to do drugs, the right to smoke marijuana. We should support all of that. Because more rights for people means more rights for us. This is like the most primitive type of libertarianism that Yasir Qadhi and the entire Dawah Mafia has been pushing. Just reconcile the fact, because he doesn't want to say that, oh yeah, I support gay marriage because homosexuality is halal. That would be a bridge too far. He has to say, no, homosexuality is haram. We're very clear on the moral issue. But when it comes to politics, that's separate. As if you can separate morality and politics. Like, what an asinine claim. What a deep misunderstanding of politics can you have if you think that politics has nothing to do with morality. Your politics is based off of your morality, on what moral positions that you take, what you're committed to morally. And every other candidate, every other politician understands that when I'm elected and I'm a Catholic, for example, I'm going to vote on the basis of being a Catholic, and I disagree with abortion. I'm pro-life. That is what my religion teaches me. That is what my morality compels me to support, is a pro-life position. There aren't these candidates, Catholic candidates, who go to office and they know, I'm actually privately, I believe in the right of life and I'm anti-abortion, but I'm going to go into office and I'm going to start promoting abortion and the right to choose, etc. And if they did that, if there was a Catholic candidate who did that, they'd be denounced. They'd be denounced. Like, what kind of Catholic are you? What kind of Catholic? And some of them might even be condemned or excommunicated by the church, depending on what kind of positions that they take.